live.
Welcome everybody and thank you for joining today's meeting. My name is Alicia Boku and I'm the chair of the committee. Just to note that the meeting being recorded goes super fast. So I'm just going to go around to various members here and if you just or which ward you represent. So I'll start with Councillor Rice,
Benjamin Scotland Hill.
Councillor Blake,
Barbara Blake, Seven Sisters Ward.
Councillor Emery,
Councillor Emily, Highgate.
Councillor Ali.
Councillor Ibrahim Ali, Bruce Castle.
Those also in the room are Fiona
Fiona Alderman, Head of Legal and Governance, and Montrose.
and Aisha.
And Asha Simsek, Democratic Services and Scrutiny Manager.
Thank you. So we're now on to item 2, apologies for absence, but we're correct, so we don't have any apologies this evening. And item 3, urgent business. Do you have any items of urgent business?
No items of urgent business, Chair.
Then,
Sorry, I wanted to raise this now or raise this. But somebody give me a phone call about 6 o'clock today.
okay,
Should we bring this up now or later?
so
Is it a public issue? Because I'm just, we're live to the public.
I think maybe have it under in the exclusive bit, I think so.
We've got an urgent business under.
Yeah, so let's add that to it.
5 minutes.
Item. Thank you.
Guess we just go.
We've added an item to urgent business of the exclusive. Thank you. So item 4, do you have any declarations of interest? No. Then we are on to item 5, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, which are on pages 1 to 4. So just for accuracy purposes, are you happy with the accuracy of the minutes? Yes. Okay. I actually have an item from that, those minutes, just on page 2. Page 2, and it's paragraph 4. So just made a comment saying the committee members commented that the report will be useful to circulate to all councils for information. It's just to give the outside bodies. So I'm just wondering whether that has been done or.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add it to the weekly, update that members get. So it's published all online, but we'll add it to the weekly update list. I think it was just waiting to see if there was any further information, but we can do that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Anything else from me, members? So we'll read the minutes. Then
Agreed.
we are now on to item 6, which is the members' allowance scheme for 2023-2024. And that can be found on pages 5 to 32 of the agenda document. So should I hand it to yourself, Aisha?
Okay, this is just a early report on the members' allowance scheme. As you're aware, members' allowance scheme goes through full council every year. We have to agree it by the 31st of March. This is just an initial paper before, just to get a sense in terms of if there's any likely changes. I've not had any kind of political messages or anything to say that there is going to be any changes to the members' allowance scheme. I've not had any communications relating to that, so I've just kind of put in the information that we've had from the LGA Remuneration Committee, which is still doing their review into the allowance scheme, and I think they've contacted ADSO, which is the Association of Democratic Officers, just to get a sense of like how members' duties have increased and responsibilities have increased. I think they went to the last meeting that we had that was in December, and we've also had a questionnaire that's been sent to Democratic Services for us to kind of give some views about whether we think kind of members' duties and responsibilities have increased, especially after the pandemic. So I've had a look at that, and I have added in that we've got extra meetings. I think we've seen an uptake in casework. I've added that in as well. But if there's anything further you want me to kind of report back on any increases in duties, I'm happy to put that forward to the evidence gathering that's taken place. I think it's it's not reporting, I think, until the till the end of this year. So we're unlikely to get any kind of report probably this time next year that we'll get something through, but it is happening at this time. Again, I've referred to, I think, the review that you did way back in 2019 to 2020, where we had the independent person, but we had somebody come in independently to do a review, and I think they'd recommended you have a 2% annual update to your a basic allowance. So that's just in there as a reminder, and I've just put the cost of how much that would be. Finance have said there isn't really a budget for that if we do take that forward. So that's just to keep in mind as well, that there isn't a budget, but of course it is here for your comments and for your considerations.
So
So that's, I thought it was a non.
That's right, yeah. That's right, and their report is attached. So they last reported this time last year again in 2022. So their report is attached here, and I think I've summarised some of the key things in paragraphs. 6.5. Yeah, 6.51 was, I've just took out the key issues that they put forward. But again, they're doing a further wider review and they're gathering information from council. That's the LGA, yeah. There isn't a specific London one. It's national, so they're gathering information. But they're contacting every single local authority. So I don't know if there's a difference between the national wide.
But I think this is a matter that really should be settled independent of this.
yeah,
This
so
is what it should be.
in cabinet, the parliament, they do have an independent body that does that. So the MPs themselves don't get involved with that. I know when we did have the independent review ourselves that was commissioned, the gentleman doing the review actually did mention that there are particular areas that also have the independent one. I think Wales, one of them, whereby they have independent committee that actually allocates the allowance for members. So each council doesn't do that, but London hasn't adopted that scheme.
The members that would suggest 5%, So you, that allows about 5 billion. It's not like that.
So what I found interesting was page 6, item 6.5, because actually in that report, in the evaluation of council in London reports, it does have a bit, that's the basic allowance should be 12,014. So it's quite interesting how they've said that. But when we looked at this during the review, actually, I think not many councils had basic allowance that was that high. We thought the R1 might have been a little bit. Sorry? 6.5, page 6.
Section 5.
6.5. Yeah, it says that.
Did you look him again? Is that that's my imagination?
There's some running downstairs, I think.
Is that? Someone downstairs. Sorry, I'll ignore it. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just
Okay.
just to as I said, basically 6.5, it does have that figure that says 12,000. So it's quite interesting how they've, there's just about, we got to see what happens once they've done the final review. Still pending.
What's up table A on page 10? This is the current screen.
This is a current scheme.
It's changed totally. That's the same as. It's more. This is not quite as much in cabinet members.
It's not, it's a couple of thousand, yeah, lower, but higher than the, higher than the other kind of, other positions, yeah.
Where's the scrutiny chairs?
Scrutiny chairs, they're the 4, so they're band 2A, so they're the 4 councillors that are serving on their overview scrutiny members, but they're also the panel chair, so they're 15,421, band 2A. So I think was it 2017 to 18 that these bonds were actually agreed, so it was before
Yeah.
2017 to 18 when they were agreed, so they've not changed in terms of the SRA since then. I think,
No one wants to do anything about it.
Well, even in the report, the remuneration one, they recommend increase to the basic allowance, but not the SRA. They
Well,
do
we
it.
agreed that last year, the year before. That we had set, uplift in line with inflation.
it was in 20, the basic,
Responsibility.
not on the responsibility, it was on the basic, but you didn't take it forward in last year or the year before as well. So 2022 and 2021, it wasn't taken forward, but in 2020, you did, yeah.
I mean, last year we didn't feel it was appropriate because we just came out of the pandemic. Things are really tight. We didn't feel it was appropriate to now ask for an uplift for councillors. And also, I mean, the uplift was also based on whether the officers were going to get something. So if the officers were not going to get an uplift, then we wouldn't have got the uplift anyway. The committee members didn't feel that would be appropriate last year.
But none of them has their salary uplift.
They did, yeah, this year they got an increase, but it was, again, the kind of political soundings we got was that wasn't going to be something that was going to be put forward, and also it would be something that we would kind of need to know much earlier. So if there is a kind of, maybe for next year, if there is a sense that you want to increase anything, it would need to go through the budget planning process earlier, so that it would be accounted for in the budget as well. Kind of, yeah, so it could, there would have to be some sort of indication much earlier in the year if there was a inclination to increase
So would that be? Because
allowances.
not only standards meets either in June or July, and the next one is around October. So we do is suggesting the October meeting.
Probably if that was when if you were inclined that way, so that it would go through the kind of budget planning process.
You recommend July?
I would have to check with finance again. It would be, I think that's when they start to, I mean, that's usually scrutiny start to look at the budget it's released to the cabinet in December, and then it's scrutiny kind of December, January. So I don't know, we could, I mean, September maybe might be a better way forward if that was something that you're wanting to take forward. I'm doing the actual council calendar at the moment, so I can always shift if you want, not put an October meeting, put a September meeting, but again, that's up to you. You might want to have that political discussion on that if that's something you want to take forward.
The advantage if we were to move to September, I know from our party, their conference is moving
Yeah, that's
to
true.
October now. I don't know about the other parties. If that's the case, might be linked to recess, but it might be just, I know there's a period of time where we don't have meetings because of different party meetings, national meetings. So just something to consider. We might be able to squeeze a September meeting if it works for all the parties.
I'll have a look. I think we've got the conference dates already, so we've got them in the calendar.
Like the chair of the conference committee being downstairs, I don't know.
We've looked on, yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow.
There's always a few dates in September that we normally have to hold cabinet. We've always got to hold planning, and we've got to always hold, there's another one that we, corporate committee as well. So we always have to use those three. So there would be an evening. We would just shift other things around if that was wanted, yeah.
We also have to account for your work as well, because we have all those committees now, there's some extra work happening, and we should also balance
Exactly.
those out as well. Okay, so I mean, this is just for initial, how people feel and everything. Obviously, I mean, we haven't discussed it in our group itself, but for me personally, similar to last year, I don't think it's appropriate to, I mean, the amount that you look at individually is not that much. If you did get the 4%, the 10%, we would cap it at 2%. So 2% is just slightly over 220 pounds added to the balance. Not that much, but I still don't think it's right to do that when people are really struggling. I'm not sure what other people's thoughts are.
I do disagree. Obviously not having an increase over the last few years. Obviously, sure everyone's aware of the two different aspects. It's not wanting to use public money, but at the same time making sure that we don't attract the wrong sort of people, people who already have enough money support themselves with being a council. So personally, I do think if we've not had one since 2020, then potentially we should look into it. I would either see it. Just my own view.
I mean, I think I tend to agree. I think it's important. Certainly in the sense that there are on both all sides councillors who, it's not just people who can afford to do it, so that you're getting a good mix of people who are being councillors. And I mean, some people may have to pay someone to look after the children, you know, all of that kind of thing, which is what the allowance is about. And I think if the allowance isn't increasing, and I know you can claim childcare, but you know, I think it's important that we have a good mix of councillors, a good range of councillors, and so actually I have to say I do disagree with you on that issue. Yeah.
I think I have to sort of echo bits of this. I mean, I think, Chair, the process that we had in 2020 was the best way of going about it, where we actually went away, we looked at our neighbours. I think it was 2020 or maybe 2018. We looked at our neighbouring partners. We looked at how do we fare in comparison, so we're not out of kilter, bearing in mind the cost of living, public perception. But that being said, I think elected members are elected to take decisions. And I think if we're minded to, it's a decision. Maybe we share an opinion that we want to attract all kinds of young people, women, people with caring responsibilities, disabled people. I think it's about saying decisions are made best when we look like the borough we seem to represent. And if that means that we need to try and incentivise people who might not traditionally think these roles are for them, then we should be able to be confident as politicians to go and explain to the public and say that makes better decision making when it looks like the borough. So yes, politically, that's our job. I think as elected members, we take very difficult decisions, and it's up to us to go and explain it, and also to be held accountable for that as well. So I do think if we were to conduct a process, it may be it's clear to for this financial year. For the next financial year, maybe the economic climate will be different. We can go on a journey as a committee, and then we come to a conclusion. If we vote against, we vote against it, even after having all the evidence presented in front of us, or we support it. But I think I don't think people can condemn us from exploring the option, is my opinion. So I think we should be able to exploring for the next financial year, for 23, 24, I think it is. Mistaken. No, 23, 24. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I'm not thinking what Abraham said to me. We had a consultant 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had a good look at everything. He came up proposals. Not many increase apart from the legal office, given the hefty price. The other was. I think that's the way to do it. As a complete independent person. Look at the only involvement members is the English. Completely independent person. Go away, look at it, come back. Time so if anything is changing, go through rules and rules council. The problem is that members don't like being involved with this. And that's why I say it's got to be completely independent. That's the members what's this report.
Yeah, unfortunately, at this stage, we can't be completely independent. Members still have to make a decision on whether to increase or not increase this stuff.
But that can be announced.
Well, I mean, even if you had a review body who came up with a recommendation, members would still have to vote on it ultimately, wouldn't they? And I actually just want to add just what Councillor Ali said, that I mean, when you look at the range that things that councillors have to do, public speaking and, you know, dealing with very complex and sensitive casework, I mean, I do think that, a good case is there for an increase. So, I mean, if you had an independent person, I think it would still come to this committee and would still come to members anyway, wouldn't it?
Can I just flag, although he was an independent person, our team did quite a lot of the research for him and we facilitated all of the discussions, like in terms of there was a survey that was quite well responded to by the members. And we did a lot of the desktop research, contacting other boroughs. And so just to kind of say that and there was a payment for him as an independent person. I think it was between 12 and 15,000. So there is a cost to it. So just to flag
Yeah.
that up, that there was a cost and there was a resource implication as well. The other thing I would just also add is because it wasn't taken forward and so I think there would need to be some sort of political commitment for it beforehand to know that if we are going to take this forward, then there's got to be a political commitment that that some recommendations are likely to be agreed, and there's got to be that maybe earlier on before, maybe from, at least before we even embark on the review, because it will just be a lot of time spent. And then if things are just voted down at the end, that's the only thing I would say from a resource point of view. Yeah.
That's very helpful. I think on that basis then, Chair, I'd like to revise my position in the sense that maybe I suggest both political groups to go away, have a conversation amongst themselves, and they can bring us a standing item to the next agenda, next meeting.
Yes, so that's what we normally do. So this is more of just initial discussions,
Okay.
find how things are, and then we can have our political meetings and then come back. This time it's in March, and then have the final recommendations from the committee, which would go to full council, and then either adjust that full council. That's what would normally happen. Yeah.
Super.
But it's just for initial discussions. If there's anything else that we'd like to do now, so that at least we can some additional revision on the reports to be added.
Just for my pure clarification, I'm assuming regardless of whatever the both political groups decide, this is because of the budget envelope, it is set in stone now. We're just sort of nodding it through, aren't we?
Do you mean?
For this financial year, I'm assuming this conversation's about 2023 and 24. We're just too late in the game to talk about any proposals for this year financially.
Yeah, that's right, Chair. This report does say for this financial, so for the forthcoming finance, the report does say that there isn't a budget envelope for any increases because they would take place in, say, May 2023, so in 5 months' time, and the budget is actually going through full council on the 2nd of March, so it wouldn't have this information in there. So you would be good to give an indication early on for the 24?
23, 24.
Yeah, 23-24 year.
No, we're 20.
Sorry,
24,
25, yeah.
Oh, really? That far ahead?
Now we're in 23. So now we're setting the budget.
Of course.
Now
It'll be
my
from May
apologies. This is the
yeah.
budget for 23, 24, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, 24, 25. Okay.
But I remember last year's papers had something similar where the budget didn't account for it as well.
Yeah, that's right. So we would
always
need
says- it
to,
always
yeah,
says
we
that.
would, but again, there's not been a political indication earlier on. We put that as.
So Chair, we're just about to go into the budget
Yeah.
cycle for 24-25.
Yeah.
As soon as we've put this one to bed.
Yeah.
So that will be the time to leave those in, because obviously in the autumn, that's when things will be getting baked in.
Sorry, Chair. So just to confirm that we've now had 3 years then, no increasing. Just confirm that. It's 2020.
The review was done, was it 2019?
Yeah, we increased, I think, at the 2020 full council, we did increase it, I think, by 1.75%.
We're talking about the full.
Last year.
Yeah,
Does anybody have any idea of the total budget for costs of the council?
Least in the report, actually.
That's why I've just been looking for.
I don't think there's actually something that's set as such.
we do have a members' allowances budget, but that also includes some, your kind of, the monthly outgoes, and it also includes things like payments for surgeries, payments for allocate any parents where you want to kind of make a claim for any travel to courses or any childcare and carers payments as well, so that's all included.
The basic allowance every year is 600,000 total. So even if we did increase by 4%, cost of that 12,000, it's almost as much as it, isn't it? In our way.
I mean, it would.
Significant
This,
portion.
I mean, these are the comments I've got from finance, so I have put them forward to finance. So finance my finance colleagues are giving me these comments. So it's not something I would forward in the report. It's from the finance officers.
And I think just to all the items, things that have been discussed, like the concerns that are raised, they were also raised in the paper as well, which is why they were suggesting an increased basic allowance in there, because we did consider additional workload of the councillors as a result of the pandemic, those types of things. If we did include that in this report as well. Okay, so
And I think there is provision if you wanted to look and increase before the end of the next financial, I think there is provision to take things up to council. It doesn't have to wait till the 31st of March. You can take it up earlier. There is provision to do that if you,
Don't mind it.
if you know, if there was a bit more of a kind of political agreement, if that's what was being pushed for, you don't have to wait until kind of May, that, you know, next year. You could do it beforehand.
So Claire, I suppose the only point I'd make is, I suppose, that potentially if you're looking to attract people to become councillors, there is something for building in a sort of increase, because otherwise the gap becomes wider, and then you'd have to put in a bigger increase to attract people, which might be, you know, sort of politically sensitive.
Little or not.
Yeah.
are there any more comments or anything from this item? No. So thank you for that. We'll bring it back to the next meeting. So the next item on the agenda is the community work program, which will be found on page 33 to 34. Is that you, Aisha?
Yeah, again, it's your comments. Any additions? So, I mean, we're getting together the calendar of meetings. So, do you want me to add on as a discussion item the following year's allowances to the March meeting, or do you want to? I can add that to the June meeting. So,
I
way
think
forward.
It'd be better to announce, add it as a later meeting, not the
Yeah.
March one.
I have to agree with the chair. I think that the second point of that agenda in March is probably the more substantial one, I assume. Because there are a number of significant changes to be put through, so.
And then one thing that I wanted to just add is, normally we do have an annual report from the monitoring
Yes,
officer.
that would be
Oh,
okay.
sorry, apologies. Yeah.
And what was quite nice last year is that we did have, like, I think Stephen had the different cases that were heard in other.
Around that, and we've
Yeah.
tried to do that, obviously, because I've turned over 2 deputy monitoring officers.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So we are, but that is where we're hoping to get back to, is to have the roundup of things that are happening nationally in standards.
Yeah.
So that's still on your agenda.
So if maybe have it for like a June or July one, a later one, just to give you enough time. But I found those cases quite interesting, and just to know what was happening.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair, just on the side note, I don't know if this is possible, actually, but do we avoid meetings and half terms and Easters and?
Yes, we do. We do try to. So, yeah,
As
much as
possible.
possible, unless we.
This is a special hearing, I know.
Yeah, but
Just for standing meetings, I just thought I'd double check, because you're forward planning, that's all.
Yeah.
Then after everybody.
No, not for now, just more generally, like, there's a half term in June, there's a half term in February.
No, we do. We mark those in the council calendar, so we try our best, but sometimes if we
Of
have to have
course.
a planning meeting or something, that's.
Well, I guess all committees like this, really, it's, unless it's a hearing, it's not life or death.
No, we would avoid putting any committee on those weeks. We normally don't, like, we try to avoid summer holidays and all the half terms, some of the stuff.
Standing. Arrangement. That on Wednesdays, they're on Fridays. No, they're creeping it in. I should do the Friday meeting, but it's.
It shouldn't be a committee
Was
meeting.
the committee was like.
It would be more
members briefing.
informal, maybe member
Sorry?
briefings,
Was the
yeah.
members briefing that they had on the Friday evening, I guess it was o'clock, which I didn't think.
Likewise, I could attend that briefing as well. But it wasn't organised by Democratic Services, to be fair, it was not a.
We can feed that back, we can feed that back to the Cabinet Office, yeah.
Agreed.
People really should aware of these things.
Was it political or more that just usually Wednesdays was like half day? Even like any other place, Wednesdays normally it's half day, that was just. But that's more of the committees rather than the standard.
Yeah,
Oh.
I suspect it's committees that get an application and licensing or planning, they're the ones who tend to,
They're more of the seats.
they're the ones who tend to move around a lot.
Someone is public, not told them, but listen. License, you know, that understand. Yes, as possible.
Can I just ask, are there any item that anybody else thinks would be useful for the committee to look at? We've looked at the outside bodies the last time. We've previously looked at the co-opted members. We've done that before. This was the previous administration. We've done the co-opted members and had something like that. The standards did us contribute to the social media document and everything, but is there anything that as committee members think would be useful for standards to look at? If you can't think of anything today, it's fine, you can bring it to the March meeting and you can add it as an item for the next one, but just things you think would be useful. If we've got the new intake of councillors now, but if there's anything else that you thought, oh, this would have been quite good to have had, something like that.
Chair, the only thing that sort of occurs to me is the local code of corporate governance. I'm sure I might put the title wrong.
No, it's, yeah.
And whether that's something that we bring forward, you know, there's discussions about governance going on in various parts of, you know, the council and how to ensure we have sort of good governance. So that might be something to have a look at, and possibly they tend to be quite dry documents, but you know, it might be worth to kind of get the committee's views on how we can make it more relevant for residents in a sort of Haringey deal type. How do we sort of contract with residents and what they can expect from us? So that's just something that occurred to me that might be useful for the committee to look at.
Good suggestion.
It's maybe something as soon as what they do in scrutiny and have the projects that they go to and then feedback and make some changes. Okay. Anything else for the committee work program? So then I will now move on to item 8. The items for business. We don't have any new items for this part of the meeting. We don't have anything there. And then item 9 is the dates of future meetings. So just to note that the next meeting will be first on March. Right? It's
It's first month.
21st. And then on to item 10. This is the exclusion of the press and public. So items 11 to 12 are likely to be subject to a motion to exclude the press and public from the meeting as they contain exact information as defined in section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by section 12A of the Local Government Act 1985, paragraphs 1 and 2, namely information relating to any individual, information like to the team of an individual. So at this point, I would like to ask members if they are in agreement to exclude the public of this meeting
Agreed.
and the press. Thank you. So all agreed.
Yeah.